Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here and don't know who I am Julissa, better known as the Zero Waste Mom here on YouTube. Today I will be sharing with you guys my very personal birth story and traumatic postpartum. May 27th, around 7 o'clock, I started having contractions and they were like pretty intense contractions. Then again, I had nothing else to compare it to because I never even had Braxton Hicks contractions or any other contractions. So I was next to my husband and I did not want to wake him up. So I just left the room. And fortunately, I was living with my parents at the time. So I was able to go to my mother and let her know that I was having contractions and the baby was probably going to be born that day. It wasn't long before I felt so much pain, like from the contractions, that I was on my hands and knees and I was just rocking my body back and forth because it's just like my body took over. My mind was just not working properly anymore, and I just let my body do whatever it needed to do. Um, Shortly after, I started to vomit. So my mom helped me into the shower to clean myself off, and when I was in the shower it took me a very long time because I could not focus on taking a shower. I couldn't do anything. So I basically just stood in the water. That's it. By the time that we made it to the hospital, it was already around like 10 o'clock, closer to 11 o'clock. So as soon as I got there, I let them know that I needed to go to the bathroom, and they told me, no, you do not need to go to the bathroom. You are having this baby right now. That's the baby coming. I was like, I'm pretty sure I need to go to the bathroom. So I got admitted. They checked me out, and I was like 5 to 6 centimeters dilated. I thought things were going to run smoothly because I was already at that point. I thought everything was happening very fast. So they would check up on me every like 20 to 30 minutes, and I was progressing, but I got stuck at an 8. So they broke my water because it wasn't breaking on its own, and even after having my water broken, I did not progress at all. So the nurse asked if I wanted help, and I didn't exactly know what she meant by that, so I agreed to it. And she stuck both of her hands inside of me and was just like pulling me open. She said that that would help try to you know, get me dilated more, and it was the most painful thing ever because I didn't have any medication in me whatsoever, so I felt everything. I was very rude with people, but it wasn't on purpose. It was because I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything except for just feel pain. It was already 12 o'clock, and the nurse was really worried that I wasn't making any progress at all. So she called the doctor in to check me out, and then he told me that I was going to need an emergency C-section because something had to be wrong, that I wasn't dilating anymore, and that my son was having such a hard time coming out of me. So I was going to need a C-section, and I never wanted a C-section. I just thought that that was going to be the factor that caused me trauma, that caused me depression. So it was a struggle accepting it, but at the end of it, it was like I had to do it because of my baby. So I went through with it. I was in the operating room and I was alone for a little bit. They bent me over and I got a spinal tap, and almost immediately after I felt such a huge relief. I didn't feel any more of all that pain that I was feeling. So I was able to be in such a good mood that I was making jokes and I was laughing and everything was good. So from the moment that they brought my husband back in and I was cut open and my son came out of me, that entire process was very quick and there were no complications. My son was born very healthy, so nothing went wrong there, and I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful for that. But because of that experience, because it was so great, and my hospital stay, I believe I stayed there for 3 days in total. It was so great. And I know you're thinking like, where's the traumatic part to this? And I'll get to it. Because my experience was so great at that hospital, I guess you can say on that floor, I thought the entire hospital was that way, and I thought, I don't know, I was very deceived. Very deceived. So, as I said, I was only there for 3 days, and I had an option to stay an additional fourth day. But I thought that I was fine. I thought that I could do it on my own now, and I just wanted to start motherhood. Well, I was only home for 1 day before I had to return to the hospital. I woke up drenched in sweat and I just felt so cold. I had the chills. I I had fever, and it was a pretty high fever, and I just knew something was wrong. So I waited a little bit to go to the hospital because I thought that it would just go away on its own. At least I was hoping it would go away on its own, but it wasn't. So I had to leave my newborn baby behind with my parents and go to the hospital again. When I got there and I let them know everything that was going on with me, they sent me to do many different tests. And eventually, when the test came back and a doctor came to talk to me, she told me, I'm not going to lie to you, there are a few different things wrong with you, and they are very serious. You're going to have to be admitted. I honestly thought that they were going to come back to me with just news that, yeah, it's just a fever, take this, and you can go home to your newborn baby. I was devastated. And then they told me how serious it was. They told me that I had an infection outside of my bladder from the C-section, and I had so much liquid in my body that it had found its way into my lungs. Also, because of all that liquid, my heart was working overtime and it wasn't functioning properly anymore. Those are scary things to hear, and I guess also because I had just given birth and I had so much going on in my head, I just had so much fear. And then I remember specifically when that doctor told me that I was gonna need to be hooked up to antibiotics nonstop because that was the only way to fight off this infection that I had. And mind you, that's the infection that was causing me that fever and the rest of the symptoms that I was feeling. So after around, I believe, 2 bags of antibiotics, they had transported me up into the room I was going to be staying in there at the hospital. Well, the person that transported me up, she left all the antibiotics and everything across from me. So I was just staring at those bags the entire time. And she told me that a nurse would be in so she could hook me back up to them. So I thought, okay, that's fine. And my husband, at the same time, he needed to go back home to give milk to my son that I had been pumping out at the same time. Also, he needed to go home and take a shower because I mean, we're both new parents and he hadn't taken a shower in a few days to help me out. So much was happening at the same time. And I just want to let you guys know that I'm really like calm and collected right now just because I've already told this story multiple times in order to like help me not cry or not be so not show so many emotions while saying this story. So that has definitely helped me keep it together. I let my husband go back home knowing that I was going to be alone, but I didn't think that I was going to be alone for that long. So it was like 30 minutes later, and a doctor came through that was going to be attending me there while I was staying there. So he let me know the game plan, and everything was fine. He let me know that I did need to be plugged in to those antibiotics, and I did need them. So that he was going to let the nurse know to come by the room so she can hook me back up. Nobody came by, and I believe like an hour, 30 minutes to an hour after that, I was hitting the like little call button because I still wasn't hooked up to anything. And I believe it was a CNA that came by my room, and she let me know that the nurse knows to come to my room and she will when she has time. Because she couldn't, I believe she couldn't hook me up to things. At least I don't remember clearly, but I think she couldn't hook me up to anything. So I believe like 30 minutes to an hour after that rolls by. My family came to the room before my nurse ever did. And I was just panicking. I just thought they just wanted to let me die. They were leaving me unattended. They didn't care about me. And finally, the nurse came in and they did a shift changeover. So she told me the reason why she never came in is because she was busy doing a shift changeover, preparing for it. So there's that. The next nurse, she hooked me up to everything, and they gave me some medication that started giving me a reaction where I would get all these rashes and like would nonstop scratch myself. I felt like I had taken some drugs or something. Like I was just so itchy and just so uncomfortable. That also freaked me out because I thought, okay, they gave me the wrong thing or something, or basically because I was having that reaction, I was even more scared on top of everything else. I was in panic mode. I was thinking that I was gonna die. And I know I'm not saying this like, I'm saying this really calm, as I said before, but I have rehearsed this enough where I'm okay to tell this story because the first time I told this, I was sobbing because of just taking me back there. I can't stress it enough how scared I was. I honestly believed that I was gonna die. So I remember I had my dad there, and I was basically telling him my last goodbyes. I was letting him know like game plan, basically what I wanted to happen with my son. I was like apologizing to him for how bad I was in the past. I was telling him how much I loved him, and I believe I scared him pretty badly. And I know like everyone else that was around me, they were pretty scared too. And and they let me know that that was just a reaction that I was having, that it was normal, that's what people go through with that medication. But that still didn't make it any better. That didn't ease my worries. That didn't do anything for me by that point. Especially because shortly after, my IV started like to reject, I guess you can say, because all the liquid was just running out of my body. All that was just way too much for me. And all of that was enough to just push me right over the edge. So the nurse that I had, she came in and she was like trying to stick different needles to see if they would work, and none of them would work. So then she called in a friend, and she was poking me in all different veins as well. So I believe I was sticked at least 6 to 10 times, somewhere around that. I just know that all my arms and my hands were just bruised of them sticking it in and then wiggling around to see if it would work. Now, I've never been afraid of needles. I've never cowered away from giving blood or getting labs done or anything. I've never had a problem with them. I mean, I was in the military and they literally put you through basically a little conveyor belt of, you hold up a sign that says what vaccine you need, and like two people stick you at the same time, and no problem, like no problem there. But having all that just happen and then having that happen as well, I just thought, what else? What did I do to deserve all this? Like, why is this all this happening to me? I wanted things just to be a tad bit easier on me. I just didn't want to feel so much fear and pain, and it was just too intense. So now to this day, I still I have I start getting really bad anxiety, and I start to almost like faint whenever I have to get any sort of labs done. And I think with vaccines, I'm okay. I have like slight anxiety, but if it's anything like in the inner arm area, I start to almost pass out. Even a year after that whole experience, I tried to donate blood, and I basically had to be babied through it because I just felt like I was gonna pass out, and I was just so terrified, and I've never had that experience before that. So that's where I'm at now. Now, day 2 of being at that hospital, the head nurse came in, and she came in to apologize to me multiple times. She apologized um, that all that happened to me and that I felt that way because she understood where I was coming from, and she promised me that nothing like that would ever happen to me again while I was staying there. So she was right, nothing like that happened again. They were very on top of me, but that still didn't change how I felt that day. The second day I was there, I had to get a PICC line, which is basically like a very long tube that goes all the way to your heart, and it has like a little port so they can administer things, and it can just circulate faster, I guess. So I had to get that in, and then because I had the infection, they put a little tube going into the infection and out of my body, and they had like a little ball which they deflated so then it can naturally suck out the infection on its own. In the beginning I was like, okay, that's fine, but I didn't realize that I was gonna have to keep that in my body for over a month and a half, and that was not easy. That was not easy whatsoever. Whether it was showering, whether it was going out in public, and I'll try to include some pictures if I have any of that. It wasn't easy trying to breastfeed because, I mean, having to lay your baby's head on something that's like outside of your body probably wasn't comfortable for him too. So I had to stay there at that hospital for about a week. I had to get all sorts of different tests done, and I had to get antibiotics non-stop. They gave me so much medication to try to flush out all that water out of me. I didn't realize that I was still going to have to go to the hospital every day to get antibiotics at least once a day. So that's where I was at. For a month and a half, I still had to get antibiotics done, and every week I had to get my infection checked up on to see if it was progressing, and it wasn't. It was kind of just staying there. It wasn't growing, but it wasn't getting any smaller either. So I went from being checked up on every week to every 2 weeks because I wasn't making any progress. And then finally it was shrinking, but even then it was slow. So that's why it took me a month and a half to continue receiving these antibiotics to try to kill off this infection, because it wasn't dying, it was just staying there. So I do plan on making a part 2 to this video, and that video will be basically everything postpartum depression, because I did have postpartum depression for a year afterwards. So I'll talk everything about it in that video. I want to thank you guys so much for sitting through this and listening to me and hearing my very personal story. I really appreciate it, guys. And if you guys have any similar experiences, or if you have a traumatic experience yourself, comment it down below if you feel like it. And hopefully we can connect and talk about it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and bye. Peace and love.